We're focused. Let's go. Hey, what is up you guys? My name is Noah and this is Tech New, and yes, it has legitimately been a while since I've last seen you guys or created a video. And you can probably guess why. One word, and that word is school. I'm going to give you guys a quick update right now. If you could care less, just skip to the listed time right here. But anyway, if you want to hear what's going on with me and this channel, just stick around. So yeah, school has been annoying. If you happen to be an AP student, you could probably guess why I have not been creating any videos lately, because I had to take my AP World exam. That took about a month of studying and just worry and hair pulling. Anyway, that's over with now, but I still am not done with school yet. I still have about 2-3 weeks left, and that includes finals, so that should be fun. So this is probably going to be the last video that I make before the end of this year. But anyway, that's that. With this channel, I don't really know what's going to be happening. I might get a job, which might enable me to buy some technology myself without having to rely on, my family and, borrowing things from people. So that might help me out a lot. And I might plan on upgrading my Hackintosh to a Kaby Lake processor, get an AMD GPU in there to help with Final Cut editing, because you know how, or if you don't know, Final Cut Pro utilizes OpenCL, which is with AMD graphics processing units. So GPU acceleration would help my workflow, and yeah, I just plan on just upgrading just for the hell of upgrading, because I built my PC about 2 years ago, and it's about time, for someone who enjoys technology, knows about technology. Yeah. So that might be a video to expect this coming summer, I guess. I plan on keeping the case, but potentially getting a new power supply and as I said, everything else new, the motherboard, processor, RAM, etc. Keeping some of the storage, maybe getting a WD Black in there, I don't know. Also, probably gonna get some more camera gear, maybe get a new place to film, maybe in my basement, get a nice green screen, a nice backdrop, something, kind of a designated area space to film in. Yeah, that's about what's happening right now. I apologize for not being able to produce anything. In my mind, I'd rather not produce any videos than produce really crappy videos in a day or a couple hours. I'd rather spend a good amount of time putting as much effort into each video that I make, so I don't regret putting it online, because what's the point of making something that you're not proud of? Every video I pride myself in, I try to make as best as I possibly can. So yeah, just understand that. I really love doing what I do on YouTube. It comes with the price of, do I choose quantity over quality, and that's what I'm really emphasizing at this moment. So anyway, that's what's been going on with me and my channel, or this channel. You guys are part of this channel. Just remember that the audience and the content creator are just as important. It's like a symbiotic relationship. One cannot exist without the other. So thank you guys for supporting me for all this time. About this time of the year is when my channel just kind of dips because of school, and maybe some of the videos that I make in the fall, which tend to be more successful, kind of just diminish. So thank you guys for sticking with me, and let's begin to talk about what this video is supposed to be about. I planned on making a video about the Mac Pro about a month ago, and you might think, no, why would you make a video on the 2013 Mac Pro? It's an awful computer. Yeah, I know. I'm talking about the next gen 2018 MacBook Pro. This is the rumored one, and it was in the news about, I'd say, a month ago-ish, so 2 months ago, whatever. It's recent enough. It's been talked about, and I planned on making this video about a month ago, but that kind of fell through because I had to, start studying for the AP exam. I'm going to reference the script that I wrote, so if I'm looking down, don't think that I'm have ADD or something. I'm just reading this script. So yeah, during at the time that I wrote recent press conference, the press conference happened at least a month ago. Apple kind of, inadvertently admitted that the Mac Pro was a flop. And if you think about it, it is. I mean, how many people do you know have a Mac Pro? You might know someone who has an iMac, MacBook Pro, but a Mac Pro is pretty uncommon because if you are a professional, content creator, chances are you either have a custom built rig, a high-end Windows workstation, and it's very rare if you have the very expensive, kind of underpowered at this moment Mac Pro. Phil Schiller actually said at this press conference, he said, "If we had a pause in upgrades and updates, we're sorry for that. What happened with the Mac Pro, and we're going to come out with something great to replace it." So they're kind of already ousting the Mac Pro. They don't want that design anymore. And I honestly don't blame them, and we'll talk about why I don't blame them in a minute. So yeah, Apple has failed to upgrade any of the hardware within the Mac Pro for about 3-4 years, and that's because of the design, as I just said. The design is limiting. They admitted that the single cooling core within the tiny trash cangular, Jesus. So Apple admitted that the design of the Mac Pro just doesn't work. It has a central cooling core, which is essential to having that trash can design. And that single cooling core is a limiting factor as it kind of limits, I'm using the word limit too much, it kind of limits what hardware you can put in the system because it has to be cooled adequately. And yeah, Apple just didn't want to stick with that. And I don't blame them for that because, I mean, what's the point of having a high-end system if you can't stick in high-end hardware consistently? So that was kind of a smart move by Apple. That's why they haven't really touched the Mac Pro 2013 for a while. So yeah, it currently is rocking 2011 V2 Xeon processors, DDR3, that's ECC memory, and older AMD workstation graphics. So yeah, this is not looking too good. They recently lowered the prices, but I wouldn't recommend you buy one because it's outdated. So yeah, the current iteration or design of the Mac Pro is a feat of engineering. It's pretty in some ways, ugly in other ways, but most importantly, it's impractical, and that's why Apple has dissed it, and they're going to try to make something, as Phil Schiller said, better to replace it. So after revealing this information, Apple went on to say that they're working on a, quote, modular design. And modular is an exciting word because that could mean that Apple is going to take a approach to the new Mac Pro and make it similar to the 2012 Mac Pro, which is the classic tower. And although that's limited, kind of like closed up, you have, I don't know what you'd call them, good Lord, what's the word? Proprietary parts, that's what I was going to try to say. Or they might try something completely different. In my mind, when I hear modular, I think of Google or Facebook or whatever company did this. It was called Project Aro, which was a phone where you'd have a chassis and you'd have little components that you'd stick in, like a processor, a camera, a screen, etc. So modular can mean a variety of things, but it's still exciting. It means that the user has more control on what's in their system, so that's a good sign. So on this statement, Apple said that we think it's really important to create something great for our Pro customers who want a Mac Pro modular system. So that's where the modular word was derived. And they said that it'll take a year or longer to do this. And I don't blame them. They should take their time making the system, because a lot of people, like Marquis Brownlee, and I'd say myself, once I, get a job or start really getting serious, I might end up buying this machine because I am kind of indebted to OS 10 or Mac OS or whatever you want to call it. I've been using it for years now, and I don't plan on switching. I'm just so used to it. So from the title of this video, you could probably guess what I'm going to talk about. It's going to be my wish list of what I want to see in the next Mac Pro, because I very well may be a customer that might buy one when it comes out, either in 2018 or beyond. So I'm just going to tell you things that I think that would make the Mac Pro a compelling purchase for me and other content creators in the YouTube community and just in general. So first, as we mentioned, let's talk about design, or the chassis of the Mac Pro. It was the biggest mistake that Apple made with the 2013 Mac Pro, as you mentioned, with its limiting factor, which was the central cooling core, which kind of made Apple kind of discontinue the design because they didn't want to try to find or optimize any hardware for it. It just was a pain in the butt. So what I would want in the next Mac Pro, and I'm sure this is going to show up, is a more practical, spacious design. I'd like to see something more as I said, conventional, not completely conventional, like, you know, a case that you could pick up from your local computer hardware shop. I'm just talking about something that is, you know, size comparable to maybe a micro ATX or an ITX system, with some wiggle room inside, so you can kind of, you know, add more components, which I'll get to, and just kind of, I don't know, have more cooling capacity, etc. So yeah, I like to see something that is in between the G5 Power Mac design, the old tower aluminum design, and the radical trash can Mac that has proven to be impractical. I want something smack dab in the middle that satisfies both of those things, both of those styles of design, or whatever you want to call them. Next, I'm going to talk about the components within the Mac Pro, or the next gen Mac Pro in general. I'd like to see Apple take a more conventional approach there, to have things a little more standard. Of course, I want Apple to be the one creating the hardware, because, you know, they know how to optimize their operating system with their hardware the best. But I'd like to see it look a little more, I don't know, something out of like a custom built rig, you know, have open PCIe lanes, have open SATA ports or whatever. You know, just something that looks recognizable. I don't want something, you know, completely out there like we saw in the 2013 Mac Pro, where they had like, you know, one board here, another board here, another board here, and then the cooling thing. Like, that's totally Apple, but just why? Like, no. I think that pro users who know a thing or two about technology or computer hardware would greatly appreciate this. So next up, I want to talk about GPU flexibility. I'd like to see Apple allow users to put their own graphics card of choice in their Mac Pro if they so desire, if they don't want to configure one out of the box. We saw this flexibility with the Mac Pro 2012 and earlier. People were putting, you know, GTX 580s in their systems. They were putting in, I think it's like a HD 7970, you know, like AMD cards, etc. They can put their own cards in, you know, they're usually designed for Mac or compatible with Mac. And I'd like to see Apple kind of bring that back, because it is, I think, a really nice feature. You know, if, like I said, most prosumers, this pro audience that they're trying to sell their products to, know that GPU acceleration is a thing, and maybe they want to put their own graphics card in. Maybe they have a pre-existing one and they want to put that in there. Not everybody wants a workstation GPU either. Not everybody can afford that. So if Apple added that feature, that would be a godsend. Final Cut Pro utilizes OpenCL, which is not really a thing with NVIDIA cards. It utilizes AMD cards. So if you have seen like the newest MacBook Pro and the iMacs and whatever, they all utilize AMD chips. Like the iMac 5K utilizes a M390X, the MacBook Pro 2016 utilizes a Polaris GPU. I think it's like a RX 460 or something similar to that, like a 450, 460, whatever. It's an AMD card, and I myself am a Final Cut Pro user. I would like to see that in the next Mac Pro. You know, I'm actually considering putting a RX 480 or a RX 580 in my system if I plan on upgrading, or just putting a GPU in there just for the hell of it, because it's beneficial to my workflow. And also, let's say you're strictly an Adobe user, you know you're an Adobe user, you've been using Adobe for years. Maybe you want an NVIDIA card because if you know about Adobe software, it utilizes CUDA, which is GPU acceleration from NVIDIA. So maybe you want that in your system versus, you know, predetermined AMD workstation cards that Apple chooses for you. So I know that's a lot of information to take in, but, you know, all in all, I hope that Apple widens the range of GPUs that are compatible with the Mac Pro, whether it be they allow you to configure your Mac Pro with a range of, or a variety of graphics cards, or even put them into your system yourself. I hope that Apple keeps it into consideration. So just like GPUs, I hope and pray that Apple will offer a wider variety of CPUs to configure in the next Mac Pro. Now, I think that Apple is going to stick to Intel Xeon processors, but I hope to God that they let users configure Intel Core i9 processors. These are not out yet, but they are going to replace the Intel Core i7 Extreme Edition. They're like the same thing, they're just rebranded, so don't worry. They are consumer grade processors, I couldn't think of the word. And they're probably going to be cheaper than Xeon processors, because Xeon processors are designed to run in servers, and they're designed to run for hours and hours on end. You know, they're like the Marines of Core i7 processors, except they're not Core i7 processors, if you know what I mean. They're like the elite class of processors, and not everybody wants that. Just like they don't want workstation GPUs, not everybody wants a workstation CPU. And that's whether they just don't need it or they can't even afford it. I hope that Apple lets the consumer have a little more choice on what processor they want to configure in their Mac Pro, whether it be consumer grade or, you know, server workstation grade. Personally, at my level, you know, level of content creation, whatever you want to call it, wow, I'm so eloquent. I don't need a Xeon processor. I'd love one. I'd have two. I'd have a dual CPU system. I'd have like a 44 core computer if I had the money, but that's just impractical. And I'm perfectly suited with a 4-core consumer grade CPU. Now, that's going to be different in the Mac Pro because it's going to be a workstation system. So I would say that X99 processors or X299 processors are still considered workstation grade, even if they are consumer. So hopefully Apple gives a little more flexibility there. So next, let's talk about cooling and system noise. Apple, nobody cares about silence. If you are rendering videos night and day using Final Cut Pro, I don't care if the system is super loud. Just kidding, I do, but I don't need it to be absolutely silent. It's okay if a computer makes noise. I'd rather have my video render faster than, you know, have a completely silent, whisper, quiet system. I don't need that. My PC has a ton of fans in there, and it's still relatively quiet. I do have a liquid cooling system in there, but still, Apple can make that quieter or just as quiet as the system, and it'd be just fine. Not everybody is looking for a dead silent machine. Nobody likes thermal throttling. People like performance, and that's what they're paying for. That's what they're forking out thousands of dollars for. So I hope that Apple doesn't worry too much about the operation noise as they did with the 2013 Mac Pro. Honestly, nobody cares. So lastly, I say that because maybe I might want to add something at the end of this that I forgot to mention. I want to talk about storage. Apple, why don't you allow, or why didn't you think that people don't need internal storage in their system? Yes, a lot of content creators like external storage. I personally, if I could afford it, I would have it because it's reliable and it's outside the system. And if your system fails, you still have your files, your precious files, and you can, you know, back them up in a RAID array. But remember, you know, with the Mac Pro, it has 6 Thunderbolt 2 ports, and it was all about external expansion. But if you think about it, Thunderbolt SATA arrays and just Thunderbolt accessories in general are so expensive. And some people may spend all their money on a Mac Pro, and maybe you might make the argument that, hey, if someone's buying a Mac Pro, they can probably afford a external RAID array. But some people like can't. Maybe they're a college student. Maybe they're someone like me, you know, working a summer job, trying to earn money for a workstation that they'll use for, you know, small projects. Not everybody can afford that kind of stuff, and I hope that Apple will allow the option of, you know, internal storage. Maybe allow people to put, you know, their own storage in their system. You know, like I said, I mentioned at the beginning, I hope that Apple has less proprietary hardware, especially with their motherboards, which would allow for expansion. You know, if you put a GPU in there, or an additional GPU, or more storage, whatever. Hopefully Apple will allow us, the consumers, to put more storage in our system, or just, you know, allow storage in the system, have it configurable, have hardware drives available in the Mac Pro. That would be great. Maybe a single one, maybe dual hard drives. You know, use like WD-BLAST or something. That would be nice. Not everybody wants external storage. Some people want to maybe bring their system on the go. That's probably not a common thing, but what if you're that guy? I hope that Apple decides to put more internal storage options rather than just a single PCIe SSD in there, because not everybody, as I said, wants or can afford external storage solutions, especially Thunderbolt ones. And oh yeah, the reason why I said lastly is because I kind of forgot to add something. I hope to God that Apple doesn't, you know, go all MacBook Pro 2016 on us with the next Mac Pro. Yes, I think USB-C is going to be a bigger thing in the following year, but I hope that Apple doesn't go completely USB-C because remember, it's a slow transition. There's still going to be some, pro devices, maybe pro accessories that are using, legacy ports, USB-A, USB-B, whatever. Just Apple, please, if you're listening to me, don't just give us like 8 Thunderbolt 3 ports and call it a day. Not everybody wants 8 USB 3 ports. It's amazing for what it can do, that's a lot of throughput, but maybe I want to connect a keyboard without using an adapter. Maybe I don't want adapters. Just saying. So in all seriousness, let's hope that Apple doesn't just give us, only Thunderbolt 3 ports with a headphone jack or some audio in and out ports. Let's hope that they still include maybe a USB-A here or there, and just maybe a few legacy ports, just for content creators' sake who may own certain accessories that aren't compatible with USB-C yet, because like I said, not everybody wants to go all donglicious on their computer.
Dongle. Definition make them boys go loco.
So anyway, that wraps this video up. I hope you gained something out of this video. I know that it wasn't a review or anything, but just, if you're a content creator, you might hear me and understand me and, just feel me, I really want Apple to take a more conventional route and really listen to the needs of us content creators. I'm an aspiring filmmaker, photo editor, or whatever. I want to stick with Apple. I want to use their operating system on a more on a more reliable system than my Hackintosh. I don't want to have to deal with that in the future when I'm, making money doing what I'm doing. I want a reliable Apple-made system. So if you have any thoughts yourself on this subject, just leave me a comment and I'll reply, or we can have a little discussion. So with all that said, I hope you leave a like on this video. I'd appreciate that. As I said, leave a comment in the comment section if you have any questions or suggestions or thoughts, and subscribe for more content like this. You will be seeing reviews. Don't worry, I'm not just doing informational videos like this one. And yeah, expect a video in early June. I got to wrap up school, and I'd rather, do that and put time into that than kind of half-ass school and half-ass YouTube. That just is not my plan. So, and other than that, as always, I will catch you all in the next one.